According to the AKC, that's the American Kennel Club, America has a new favorite dog breed. Have you heard what your favorite dog breed is, according to the AKC? The French Bulldog. Yep, that's right. The Labrador Retriever was in the top spot for 31 years, but in 2022, that has changed. It's now the French Bulldog. So I thought I would take this opportunity to talk a little bit about this organization that is telling us what our favorite dog should be. What is the AKC? What does it do? And what's its purpose? The AKC is simply a registry of purebred dogs in the United States. They register purebred dogs and purebred litters from private breeders and puppy mills. The AKC is all about encouraging the creation of purebred dogs. That's their purpose. There's a registration fee to register a purebred dog with them, so the incentive for them is there. The AKC's mission statement reads in part, and this is right off their website, the American Kennel Club is a not-for-profit organization dedicated to upholding the integrity of its registry, promoting the sport of purebred dogs, and breeding for type and function. Founded in 1884, the AKC and its affiliated organizations advocate for the purebred dog as a family companion, etc., etc. Their stated core values, I'm still on their website. Number 1, we love purebred dogs. Well, not sure about that. I contend if they love purebred dogs, they would not be promoting dogs prone to health issues. And we'll talk about that in a minute. Next one. We are committed to advancing the sport of the purebred dog. We are dedicated to maintaining the integrity of our registry. We protect the health and well-being of all dogs. Well, no, they don't. And quite the contrary, rather than protecting the health and well-being of all dogs, they promote the breeding and creation of dogs who are unhealthy and or are prone to serious health problems. And again, more on this in a minute. We cherish dogs as companions. Oh, isn't that nice? We are committed to the interests of dog owners. We uphold high standards for the administration and operation of the AKC. And we recognize the critical importance of our clubs and volunteers. Oh yes, the critical importance of their clubs. Can't forget that. Have you guys ever watched an AKC dog show? So at an AKC dog show, dogs are judged by a set of criteria called a standard that is unique to each recognized breed. These are features a particular breed of dog should have. And to be more precise, features the AKC thinks a particular breed of dog should have. So the AKC encourages selectively breeding dogs in an effort to create purebred dogs with what the AKC believes is the most desirable physical and behavioral traits for a given breed of dog, and that have nothing to do with the health of the dog. And this last point I want to emphasize. You see, when you're selectively breeding dogs in an effort and with the goal to create a dog with very specific characteristics, you are likely creating a dog who will be prone to poor health. Why? And how does this happen? Selective breeding is a process in which these breeders breed or mate specific parents to create offspring with desirable characteristics. And to achieve this, breeders are breeding closely related dogs. This is called inbreeding. Inbreeding is the mating of dogs who are closely related to each other genetically. And just as with people, the mating of closely related individuals, like the mating of cousins with each other or cousins with siblings or children with parents, can result in offspring with dangerous genetic defects. Same idea with the dogs. The odds that a human newborn child who is the product of a brother-sister or father-daughter incest has about 50% chance of getting a severe birth defect or some mental deficiency. Same kind of genetic thing happens in the dog breeding world. You mate two dogs who are genetically closely related to each other, okay? That dog, that offspring, is likely going to have some major health problems or develop health issues later in life. And this breeding process, inbreeding, that's the kind of thing many of these breeders are doing. James Serpell, professor of ethics and animal welfare and director of the Center for the Interaction of Animals and Society at the University of Pennsylvania School of Veterinary Medicine, explains that a breeder's primary concern was to produce dogs that looked like the breed standard. Quote, even if they, meaning breeders, did recognize health problems, breeders were too driven to produce what was perceived to be the most perfect breed, end quote. So we have these breeders and the puppy mills churning out these purebred dogs with major health issues. But we can't just blame the breeders and puppy mills. You have the AKC that is encouraging overbreeding and these breeding practices. And the AKC know exactly what's happening here, that these breeding practices used by breeders and puppy mills, which often work to decrease a breed's genetic diversity, okay, which has a profound impact on a dog's health. So tell me, how is this protecting the health and well-being of dogs, as stated on the AKC's website? And back to breeders for a minute, because that's one of my favorite topics to rant about. So you purchase your new puppy from a breeder, and you're so proud that your new puppy comes with AKC papers and that you have an AKC registered puppy. So what? Should we be impressed? Like, is your new AKC registered dog just the best kind of dog you can get? And if so, why? Why should you be so proud you have an AKC registered dog? I don't know. But I can tell you that the AKC wants you to believe that having AKC papers means better quality of dog. It's sort of strange to use the term quality when describing an individual, even if the individual's a dog, right? But the AKC does want you to believe that having a dog with AKC papers means you have a dog that is of higher quality, like as a measure of excellence, referring to a state of being defect-free, like you and I might describe an object. So what exactly does having these AKC papers mean? Well, those papers people brag about is simply a registration certificate that identifies the dog as the offspring of a known mother and father and born on a certain date. And I can tell you that AKC papers are not a guarantee of good health or being defect-free. And having an AKC registered dog does not mean that the dog is free of genetic defects. And furthermore, getting AKC papers from a breeder does not mean that the breeder is reputable or responsible or ethical. You've heard these terms, reputable breeder or responsible breeder, right? What does that even mean? What's a responsible breeder? The Humane Society of the United States defines responsible breeder. They tell you how to find a responsible breeder. This is on their website. The Humane Society of the United States encourages you to consider adoption from a shelter or a rescue group, but if you choose to purchase a dog from a breeder, the following guidelines will help you make sure your dog comes from a responsible breeder instead of a puppy mill. And this is like a checklist on how to identify a responsible dog breeder. And this is actually really good advice. And it's really good to follow these HSUS listed guidelines if you're someone who is determined to buy a dog from a breeder instead of adopting from a shelter or a rescue group. But in regards to this term, responsible breeder, which HSUS acknowledges exist, if you want to consider the millions of dogs sitting in our country's overcrowded shelters right now waiting to be adopted, and according to the ASPCA, we are still euthanizing about 1.5 million animals each year in the United States, then creating more dogs is simply irresponsible. So is there such thing as a responsible breeder whose job it is, who profits from creating more dogs? I don't think so. So in this regard, I would argue that all breeders are irresponsible. Okay, so now back to the topic of purebred dogs and the AKC. We know for a fact, and we've known for a while, that purebred dogs have an increased incidence of inherited diseases, and also they tend to have more severe health issues than mixed breed dogs. There are more than 500 genetic defects that exist in today's purebred dogs: heart problems, hip dysplasia, airway diseases, and more. And this is because of the purposeful, selective breeding of dogs. A study done by the University of California Davis Veterinary Medical Teaching Hospital delineated 10 inherited disorders that were more prevalent in purebred dogs as compared to their mixed counterparts. These conditions are aortic stenosis. That's when the aortic valve narrows and blood cannot flow normally. That's a big problem, skin and allergy conditions, stomach dilation or bloat, vision problems including cataracts, dilated cardiomyopathy, which is an enlargement of the chambers of the heart, another very serious condition, elbow dysplasia, epilepsy, hypothyroidism, problems with the disc between the vertebrae of the dog's spine leading to neurological problems, and abnormal blood circulation whereby blood does not reach the liver. The inbreeding of dogs from a relatively small gene pool is the cause of the wide array of genetic diseases found in purebred dogs. So you have the AKC, who sets the breed standards, so is encouraging this breeding practice, and you have the breeders. Both are responsible for creating this major welfare issue of our purebred dogs today. So the AKC works to promote the breeding and selling of unhealthy dogs. And at this particular time, it's the French Bulldog, since the AKC claims that the French Bulldog is now America's favorite dog. Did you know that French Bulldogs are likely to suffer from debilitating and sometimes fatal health problems? As is the case for most brachycephalic dogs, meaning dogs with short snouts or flat-faced dog breeds, many French Bulldogs often struggle to get enough air to live comfortably. So playing and running and doing normal dog activities can be quite challenging for these kinds of dogs. In addition, due to brachycephalic dogs' inability to pant efficiently, panting is a way dogs can regulate their body temperature, these dogs are prone to heat stroke. A 2021 study from the journal Canine Medicine and Genetics found that French Bulldogs have a 30 times greater chance of obstructive airway syndrome, 42 times greater chance of narrowed nostrils, and a 9 times greater chance of having difficulty giving birth. Difficulty giving birth? Wait a minute, really? We're creating dogs with such abnormal physical anatomy and such abnormalities in their pelvic region that bulldogs are unable to give birth naturally? How is that possible? Overbreeding. What we've been talking about. Overbreeding a dog breed to the unhealthy extent that the dog cannot even procreate on its own, where the females need to be artificially inseminated and a C-section performed to safely deliver the puppies since the heads are too big to fit through the birth canal. Why would the AKC be promoting this breed of dog that comes with such major serious health issues? Because that's what they do. And by the way, isn't it interesting, but actually it shouldn't be surprising, to note that the French Bulldog is one of the most expensive dogs you can buy from a breeder, like up to several thousands of dollars for this kind of dog? And that's probably because most breeders will often spend $1,000 or so putting this poor dog through a significant and risky surgery, a C-section. And in addition, as we talked about, these dogs experience a lot of health problems that are prone to infections. Many have a hard time breathing in normal conditions and are at high risk of heat stroke. These dogs are also considered to be high-maintenance dogs and require a lot of attention. They are known to be challenging to train and potty train. And what else makes these dogs so expensive? The high demand for French Bulldogs, much thanks to the AKC. Dr. Lorna Grand of the Humane Society Veterinary Medical Association, a professional group affiliated with the Humane Society of the United States, states, a lot of the breed characteristics that are bred into these dogs, they're for looks, not necessarily health and welfare. And Frenchies are probably one of the most exaggerated examples of that. It's a welfare issue. These dogs are suffering, she says. Short-nosed breeds, such as pugs, bulldogs, and French bulldogs, can have misshaped vertebrae, which in some cases leads to paralysis. These problems accompany the process of breeding dogs to a standard. Breeders don't care about the health consequences of the dogs they are creating. They don't love dogs the way you and I love dogs. And anyone considering getting a pug should know the health risks their dog could likely face in the future. Pugs are at risk for hip dysplasia, as well as von Willebrand disease, a genetic bleeding disorder caused by low levels of clotting protein in the blood. Pug-dog encephalitis is a fatal inflammatory brain disease that is unique to pugs. Pugs also have a higher incidence of epilepsy and seizure disorders. Other health issues that can plague pugs are nerve degeneration and eye problems due to their large and prominent eyes. Many argue that breeding any brachycephalic dog is cruel and inhumane. The Netherlands has prohibited breeding of very short-snouted dogs. Norway sees the cruelty. They banned the breeding of bulldogs. The British Veterinarian Association has urged people not to buy flat-faced breeds such as the French Bulldog. According to The Week, March 2023, Gudrun Ravitz, former president of the British Veterinary Association, writes that despite increasing warnings from vets and animal welfare charities about the many health and welfare issues of flat-faced breeds, they continue to rise in popularity and visibility, fueled by their prominence in the media and at high-profile events. There you go, AKC. Ravitz adds that, quote, we need to put a stop to these dogs' wrinkly faces, big eyes, and curly tails, which can cause so many life-limiting health problems, being seen as appealing characteristics, and says that the British Veterinary Association does not suggest buying brachycephalic breeds. Did you know that some airlines have banned pets with flat faces from flying for the dog's safety and protection, as they can easily develop breathing problems and overheating in the aircraft? According to the AVMA, in July 2010, the U.S. Department of Transportation released statistics that showed short-nosed breeds of dogs such as pugs, Boston Terriers, Boxers, some Mastiffs, Pekingese, Lhasa Apsos, Shih Tzus, and Bulldogs are more likely to die on airplanes than dogs with normal-length muzzles. And by the way, you're pretty much gambling with your pet's life, no matter what kind of dog or cat you have, if you ever decide to put your pet in the cargo hold of a plane. You can never predict the air quality and temperature in the cargo hold. Pets have froze to death, overheated to death in cargo holds. Pets have been lost. If you love your pet, never put him or her or any living being in the cargo hold of a plane. And as discussed earlier, it's not just these brachycephalic dogs that breeders are creating and the AKC is promoting that suffer these horrible health problems. Even the beloved golden retriever has a genetic predisposition to a number of conditions and diseases, including developing various types of cancers of the bone and blood vessel tumors that are also prone to various heart conditions. So I think you understand where I'm coming from. Once again, how can an organization that claims to protect the health and well-being of all dogs advocate and promote the creation of innumerable new, beautiful living dogs who have a higher prevalence of genetic defects than your average mixed breed, or who could not even be born without a surgical procedure because their anatomy is so abnormal and unnatural? I think you guys know the answer. I want to also point out that one of the ways the AKC keeps their business model primed, and that is the ongoing recognition of new breeds and breed standards. Did you know that just in the time period from 2015 to 2021, 10 new dog breeds were named by the AKC? Now, where do you think these dogs came from? They were not newly discovered like an exotic bird in the jungle. No, they were created over generations of deliberate breeding to making something new for the amusement of people and for the profit of the breeders and the AKC. There's no end to this. They can continue doing this indefinitely. So, in my view, the American Kennel Club should not be respected and its endorsement should not be valued. I think their work is massively harmful to dogs around the world. And I hope you will join me in taking any opportunity to criticize them, like I know some of you do already. For instance, if you have a friend or a relative who is thinking about buying an AKC pedigree dog, take a couple minutes and give them a little education as you're driving them to the animal shelter. Unfortunately, the damage being caused by the AKC, and I will include all licensed breeders in this, is going to continue until enough people simply turn away from them and refuse to support them in any way.